Hi guys, it's Nicole, and I've got a spooky single page scrapbook layout process video for you today. I am currently enrolled in the Sketches 2024 class over at SCT Magazine, taught by Allison Davis. I kept seeing this new collection from Tracy Reed like all over my Instagram scrolling for a while, and during the digital scrapbook weekend that was a couple weeks ago, I ended up purchasing the pattern papers, the alphabet, and the stickers, which I would call them die cuts if I'm printing them at home. So I was just kind of itching to play with this, and I decided to go ahead and pair it with the sketch for that SCT class. This is for the October class, and it's got these like diagonal overlapping kind of elements here. Now, I am pretty proud of myself. I had to cover the sketch over on the right. I first started just kind of eyeballing these diagonal strips, but they kept looking weird to me. And it finally occurred to me that I could lay that OmniGrid ruler on top of the sketch, and there are diagonal measurements on that ruler. I don't think I've ever paid attention to it. And I was able to like literally line it up, and I was like, oh, this matches up with one of the angles on this ruler. So I was able to use the angle on the ruler to make some pencil lines and like get these like lined up to where they looked right. I did kind of mess around with the different patterns of the paper. At first I didn't like it. The more I played around, I kind of came up with a pattern that I liked, and I think I might have my clips out of order. We shall see. I did kind of work on stuff all at the same time, so like as I was doing the strips, I was printing out these like stickers and cutting them out on my silhouette. I printed the stickers and the alphabets through Silhouette Studio software. The papers I resized and printed those through Photoshop. I just followed a tutorial that was on Tracy Reed's FAQ section on her website. That came in clutch. I will say I think mine printed a little bit more muted and like less vibrant than they're intended to, and that could just be something within my settings on my printer or on my Photoshop, but I actually really liked the kind of like muted vibes that it was giving. So I printed one full sheet of the stickers. There's 3 of them. And then I just kind of picked like specific pieces. I didn't want to print like a whole second set just kind of based on what was on there. I just cherry picked from the individual files some other ones that I thought that I would use, and did those for like a second sheet. So back to what I was trying to explain about the papers. You guys, I have edited the clips to this video way too many times. At first, I think even like this order right here, I was like, I don't love it. With stuff like this, I just start moving things around. At first, I was following the sizes that are listed out on the sketch. Like I was following them to a T. And it just kind of wasn't working for me. This is where I was telling you guys about how it wasn't looking right. And this was when I figured out that the angle was weird. I kind of stopped paying attention to the specific sizes on the sketch and just started cutting strips of paper and moving them around. I tend to cut stuff that doesn't show up on my layout. I cut too many, not enough, kind of everywhere in between. And I just move things around until my brain kind of says like, yes, these puzzle pieces fit. I like this. So like I thought I wanted to layer that pink on the spider. When I went to actually put it down, I hated it. So I moved it. In the sketch, that big strip that I used the spiderweb paper on has some other strips layered on top of it. However, in application, I didn't like them there, so I moved them. That's one of the things that I love about working with sketches is keeping the things that you like, changing the things that you don't like, and kind of just you know, settling, that's kind of how you like settle into your style and like what works for you. Now, I will say I struggled a little bit with my strips, mostly because I'm printing at home. I don't have a wide format printer, so my prints, the longest I can get is 11 inches. So my paper is not going to go all the way to that corner. I think in the sketch, like with the area that my paper, like my two sides meet, is different than hers, and that's fine. This second side, when I first started doing it, it looked wrong. Like I used the same angle that I used on the left, and I kept looking at the sample and I'm like, there's something's wrong. Like the right seems more tilted. Like why does the right seem more tilted? I even used like a scrap because I was like, this is not right. Something's wrong. I think I put down 2 strips before I reminded myself to grab the sketch, grab that ruler, and like measure the angle. This is, yeah. I had to cover this up. But I figured out what they're 2 different angles. One side was like a 60 and one side was like a 45. So I was just proud of myself that 1, I had caught it, I had figured it out, and 2, I figured out that that's probably one of the major uses of this ruler. So this again was another good like Amazon purchase. It was a 3-pack. I love them. I'll put them in the description if they're not already there. I just thought it was funny that I figured out that you could actually just lay the ruler on top of the big sketch and figure out the angles. So next time I have to do like a tilted layout of one of Allison's crazy sketches, I gotta remember that that ruler needs to come out and play a major part. Now, the right side, I just kind of, I winged everything. The left, I overthought all my strips and trying to figure out, you know, in order to all these strips. The right side, I was just using a lot of the stuff that I had cut for the left and didn't use, and was just kind of, I would put one on there and be like, nope, I don't like it. Put another one on there. Yes, I like this. Let's try this. And it was just a little bit easier. I think because I wasn't looking at all of the papers I had printed, and I was really just kind of pulling from ones that I had already cut from. Normally I would cut off this overhang with my paper trimmer, but with it being on a diagonal, it doesn't really fit in my paper trimmer very well until you cut off one side. So like here I was able to get in there and trim it up. My right side is going to be a little bit less amount of strips because like I said, I only have 11-inch long paper. So that diagonal area, like the longest I can go is maybe 10.5 inches. So my meeting point is different than the meeting point on her sketch, but I think this is one of those sketches that you can kind of change that up, move it around, that kind of thing. I decided that I did want to go ahead and stitch on some of these strips of paper. So this is just all my leftover DMC thread from different cross stitch projects. And I just try to find tone on tone like matches to a lot of the colors. And then I try to keep a lot of like neutral, like dark gray, black, white, and stuff like that on hand. I do like to use this big ruler to draw my lines. I tried to explain this to my friend Lisa over at Life and Layouts about how I line up the little like dash marks on here to draw my lines. I think I severely confused her, but I use the lines on this thing and find landmarks to line up. I go through and poke my holes. I do prefer the pencil line method. It's just easier for me. If I push against the ruler, my lines are never straight because I'm actually putting pressure sideways on the ruler, and they always come out crooked. So I would prefer to see it. I did struggle a little bit to see it on this black, so I left some of this in just so you guys can kind of see the hole poking, and then I get to stitching. I did take this downstairs to do the majority of the stitching, but I brought it back up to kind of show you guys how I try to do the edges. So I didn't do this downstairs and I kind of wish I had. So here you can see like where my stitch is going is wrapping around the page. The stitches tend to like fall and they don't look diagonal anymore. So my solution anytime I'm stitching around the edge of a layout is I go and I start my thread like 2 or 3 stitches in. I use one strand folded in half so that I have this loop at the end where I'm gonna push the needle through and that loop is actually going to hold the thread. Then I'm gonna take a tiny little bit of liquid glue, lay the thread on it. I try to like smush it and get the thread saturated a little tiny bit. Now, this paper is printed at home, so you want to make sure you're not getting it like super wet. So I use a teeny tiny bit of glue, grab my tweezers, and have it just kind of sit there for like 30 seconds. That glue dries pretty quickly, but I'm also not using very much, and I just need it to adhere long enough for me to kind of get going with the next stitch. And would anybody notice this? No. I notice it. I know that my stitch drops. I know that it's not lined up and that it looks weird and that is just a weird like detail that I notice, and this is my fix for that. So just sharing that in case you have it. I didn't do it, like I said, to all of them, mostly because I forgot. But the ones on the corner, I definitely came back and fixed them. Some of them I came and just squirted a little bit of glue. And then when I was done with my stitching, I took that same liquid glue and just put a little bit of glue behind the pieces that didn't have stitching or needed some adhesive to hold them down. Again, because this is printed at home, I was very careful with the glue so that it didn't run and make my paper bleed. These are the letters, the marquee letters, I think is what they were called. I picked the orange ones to spell out spooky and then the black ones to spell out snaps. And then I wanted them to kind of overlap and almost be like a whole die cut. So I laid them out, put some washi tape on them. And then when I come in with foam adhesive, I am making sure that my foam adhesive goes over all of the places that the letters overlap and touch. And then even though I was super careful, I knew as soon as I used the washi tape that this probably was going to peel up some of that ink because it's printed at home. If this was regular pattern paper, I don't think I would have had that issue. So I think I left it in here. I tried another method for that same technique that worked a little bit better, just as another kind of idea. These are downloads from Snapchat. The last probably 4 or 5 years on Halloween, I try to make sure to have fun with some of the themed filters that are on there. It's kind of the only reason I even have Snapchat is for the holiday filters. A friend of mine, she always does these really cute layouts with the different holiday snaps, and she kind of gave me the idea to do that. And like in our group chat, she'll always like remind everybody that, you know, the Valentine's Day snaps are out, and I try to go take something for whatever holiday. And Halloween, it's usually when, you know, we've had dinner, we're hanging out at family's house, waiting for it to get dark to go trick-or-treating, and I kind of give my daughter my phone and, you know, tell her, go entertain herself, take some cute pictures, and I download them later. So I think these were from 2 years ago. I just kind of went through and picked ones that I thought would go, like the filters would go with this like black and orange kind of collection. Some years I noticed the filters that we were playing with were like really bright or vibrant, and to me that was like, okay, maybe that would be better for like a doodlebug collection. So these ones, I felt like the colors in them were super muted. I did print them out in black and white as well, but I felt like they got lost a little bit too much. So here's my second word on my title. And I just printed out snaps. And then, like I said, these were all of those little like just individual ones that I wanted to add because I wasn't really sure which ones I was going to use at this point. Oh, and here's where I got smart. Okay, so I'm gonna lay these out, kind of overlap them, just like I did with the word spooky, but I'm gonna take my silhouette mat, or actually the cut up pieces that I use when I make dickers, sticky side down, picked it up, worked so well. I'm gonna do the same thing. All of those seams where the letters are overlapping, and make sure that they have foam tape really good across them. And it just makes it a lot easier to kind of pick it up as one thing, especially when they're overlapping. If I had put the foam tape behind like the individual letters and then tried to adhere the individual letters, a lot of times I end up bumping into foam tape because I didn't realize, how overlappy I wanted the letters to be. That's not a word. Oh, this is rough. I have lost clips, messed up audio, all kinds of stuff today to get this video edited, but I loved how this turned out, and I was like, you know what? I need to share it. I need to like scream to high heavens just how stinking cute this turned out. So I'm like fighting technology to get this video going. I messed around with these photos way too long. I kind of regretted cutting the corner of my photo. I probably should have waited until I for sure knew exactly where it was going to go. I think I was just excited that I remembered watching the class video that Allison did for this one, and she specifically showed where instead of tucking the photos underneath the pattern paper, she cut them so that they butted up together to kind of save on bulk and stuff. So I think I had that in the back of my mind. Eventually I kind of came to a way to kind of get them to line up. My photo sizes are definitely going to be very varied from hers. I think these are 1.5 by 3s, and I stacked them on top of each other, so they're kind of like a little like film strip looking thing. The sample for the class has 3 by 5. So she's got 2 larger photos going on. And I just messed around and kind of moved things here and there. At some point, I got everything where I wanted it to be. I took a picture of it, and then when I came back to do my journaling and attach everything, I forgot to hit record. So I left this part in of just kind of me moving things around. You guys can kind of get the general idea. Some things I glue flat, some things I will put a little dimension behind. I will say for my journaling, I'm going to include a screenshot. The black basic cardstock printable paper that I used in Photoshop, I made a 4x6 canvas, typed up my journaling. I put that black paper as the background, changed my text to white, and then I only have, I put a white box on the bottom of the photo to save on printing ink, and then printed it out, trimmed it into strips, and good to go. So here I've got the final layout, details, all that kind of stuff. I will have links down below to anything that I can possibly think of that you guys are going to want to look for. And I will hopefully catch you guys soon with another layout.